This is the JTV Caribbean News. I am Sean Rose. Former Turks and Caicos Premier Michael Misik was rearrested on Monday by Brazilian federal police in Sao Paulo on the authority of the Brazilian Supreme Court. TCI governor spokesman Neil Smith said on Monday the Brazilian Justice Minister issued a decision to refuse Misik's appeal against a refusal to grant him political asylum. Following his original arrest in Rio de Janeiro on December 7, 2012, Misik was later released on bail on February 8th of this year, allegedly because the British government had not delivered all the paperwork necessary for Misik's extradition within the specified 60 days after his arrest. His rearrest, however, appears to have been precipitated by the final denial of his application for political asylum. Misik faces a number of serious charges relating to corruption and maladministration in the Turks and Caicos during his time in office, based on a commission of inquiry conducted by Britain. A manual recount of votes in Sunday's presidential election in Venezuela is not possible, the country's Chief Justice Luisa Estela Morales said on Wednesday, April 17. She said Venezuela's electoral system is completely automated. Venezuela's 1999 constitution eliminated manual recounts in favor of a system audit, Morales said on national television, suggesting that there is no legal basis for the opposition's demand for a ballot-by-ballot audit of the narrow presidential election results. President-elect Nicolas Maduro secured 50.8% of votes, while his challenger Enrique Capriles won 49%. Election authorities proclaimed Maduro president-elect despite Capriles' demand for a recount. The United States government has joined the Venezuelan opposition calling for a recount. So far, the U.S. is the only government in the hemisphere to join the opposition's campaign against the election results. Most of the countries in Latin America, including Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, Bolivia, Uruguay, Haiti, Guatemala, Cuba, Panama, and Nicaragua have recognized the results and congratulated President Nicolas Maduro on his electoral victory. Chairman of the Cayman Islands Stock Exchange, Anthony Travers, has criticized Britain's latest move to crack down on financial centers in its overseas territories. The UK is planning to introduce new laws against tax evasion in the Cayman Islands and the British Virgin Islands, but Travers has called the measure duplicative and unnecessary.
Well, I think they're no more than building on the architecture that already exists. We already have very, very strong know-your-client due diligence requirements that require the beneficial ownership of Cayman Island entities to be available or on record here in Cayman. And that information, and here's my point, is already available to HMRC, the United Kingdom tax authorities. So in actual fact, they can come in and find out the identity of any beneficial owner in any event already.
Travers said he is troubled that the meritless attacks on the overseas territories appear to be gaining traction, and there seems to be no contrary assertion from the UK government and the Chancellor as to the true position.
What Chancellor Osborne should have done, though, was stand up. And when criticised by the Austrian Finance Minister, Ms. Fechter, he should have defended the Cayman Islands and said, we already have highly effective measures in place in our overseas territories. He should not have created the implication that we were some sort of Wild West show. As a blame deflection measure, they like to create the impression that there is a huge pot of gold offshore simply awaiting the right measures to deflect away from the fact that the problem is actually based on their own failed legislation. Tax avoidance, which is the only issue we're really talking about now, tax evasion being off the table, is entirely a function of domestic tax law. And if they want to increase United Kingdom taxation revenue, they need to change their own domestic laws and stop pointing the finger at the Cayman Islands.
The chairman of the Cayman Islands Stock Exchange pointed out that the Cayman Islands, as well as the BVI and the Bermuda, regard tax evasion as formally off the table, but yet they are continually labeled tax havens, a term that has become synonymous with illegality and wrongdoing. Travers said Osborne has also attacked the BVI, which also has similar tax transparency with the UK and the USA. The St. Lucia Tourist Board has spoken out concerning much speculation and debate about the renting of an entire resort by Matt Damon to renew his wedding vows. The visit has triggered reactions from the public regarding limited access to a beach during the celebrity's stay. Here's more in this report.
High-profile celebrity Matt Damon and wife Luciana Barroso opted for the secluded, rebranded Sugar Beach Resort to renew their wedding vows. The couple, married for 8 years, celebrated with a star-studded guest list at the resort. The Born Identity star leased the entire resort for 50 guests. Director of the St. Lucia Tourist Board, Louis Lewis, says St. Lucia has benefited immensely from hosting the celebrities.
I think the destination will be far better in the future for having hosted the celebrities, and we'll continue to see some of these things happen. We are aware of the fact that we have hosted a number of celebrities in recent times, and some of the names would shock you. But St. Lucia is this place where there is that demand, and we continue to promote the destination and ensure that we can continue the flow of arrivals to St. Lucia.
Lewis says having high-profile guests visit St. Lucia has positive implications for the St. Lucian public and private sector. He says restrictions were necessary to ensure the safety of the guests. There are many reports of the public being refused access to the beach during the megastar's stay at the resort. Vendors and taxi drivers voiced their dismay over being deprived access to the beach. However, Lewis says there was never intention to alienate citizens.
These things are things that we have to be very sensitive for. On some occasions, it may cause a bit of displacement, but at the end of the day, we have to remember the business that we're in. If we are a tourism destination, that sometimes you will have these, what I consider as inconveniences, but they're never really permanent. The whole idea is that you have a major event of that magnitude coming in, and in some cases it may call for some exclusivity, but you do not want to take away anybody's rights or right of access. It's just trying to find a happy medium between the economic benefit and also the events that are taking place on island at a particular time.
Meanwhile, Lewis condemned the armed robbery that occurred at the popular Diamond Waterfalls in Soufrière. He says the incident where tourists were robbed of their possessions at gunpoint was deplorable. Lewis says crime, including attacks on visitors to St. Lucia, need to be curbed to maintain its appeal in the market.
An incident did happen, and I know the police are actively pursuing it. It's my understanding that 2 persons are already in custody assisting with the investigations, but the repercussions of events of that nature are far-reaching. We've received a number of inquiries from a number of different travel agents, tour operators, cruise lines, who are asking and seeking details, because the last thing you want to have is a destination that where you can't assure security.
Louis Lewis says the tourist board is working with the police to resolve the matter in the most efficient and timely manner. Jade Brown, HTS News Force.
Chinese tourists spent $102 billion during their travels in 2012, more than any other nationality, making the Asian nation the world's #1 tourism source market, the United Nations said on Thursday. According to the WTO, the volume of international trips by Chinese travelers has grown from 10 million in 2000 to 83 million in 2012. Their expenditure abroad has also climbed rapidly, increasing by 40% from 2011 to 2012. In addition to urbanization and rising incomes, other factors such as the relaxation of restrictions on foreign travel and an appreciating Chinese currency have contributed to this boom in tourism. Other emerging markets have also increased their share of world tourism spending over the past decade. Russia saw an increase of 32% in 2012, spending $43 billion, which brought it from 7th to 5th in the international tourism spending rankings. Brazil also experienced a significant increase, which allowed it to move from the 29th position in 2005 to the 12th position in 2012. The new trend in tourism source destination is expected to impact marketing strategies from within the Caribbean. Jamaica already has direct flights to Russia and China. For the JTV Caribbean News, I am Sean Rose.
Coming up next on JTV News. Premier Smith lists deficiencies in the manner major contracts were procured, approved and awarded during 2011. Agriculture Minister tells farmers there has never been a more pressing need to diversify the local economy. Dr. Marcia Pato warns that too many young people are ill-prepared for the workforce. And creative and inspiring crafts by seniors on display during this month.